What's up? Welcome back to Make It Stick. We begin with Anki. As always, that's where we jump into. We've got 2 flashcards due today. 3 actually. What is Chapter 4 Embrace Difficulties about in 1 sentence? Desirable difficulties. I'll list them. Testing and retrieval, spacing, interleaving, variation, generation, some contextual and fluency interruptions. These impede short-term gains but lead to longer lasting, more durable, better learning with more learning transfer due largely to increased cognitive effort. Perfect. What is retrieval practice and why is it superior to passive review? Retrieval practice, this is the effortful pulling of information from long-term memory, from your own memory. Why is this superior to passive review? Passive review is the double whammy, right? You're not really retrieving much, which is how you learn. As far as knowledge goes, you got knowledge, and then you need a retrieval pathway and a cue. So you have a cue that triggers a pathway to a piece of information in your long-term memory. Passive review is really not doing much to develop this long-term memory that you want. It's developing memories of when you're like reading the exact book or reviewing the exact thing, which is not how you're actually going to be tested on it, how you're going to actually use it. So you're developing this pretty weak, useless knowledge. You're not practicing retrieval, which means you're not really practicing these retrieval pathways. So it leads to weaker learning, and it leads to an illusion that you've mastered it because you become familiar with it. Retrieval is actively recalling from memory, which strengthens neural pathways, improves long-term retention, unlike passive review, which creates illusions of knowing. Good. What are the 5 sections of Chapter 5, Avoid Illusions of Knowing? The 5 chapters, or 5 sections, of Chapter 5. The 2 systems of knowing, illusions and memory distortions, mental models, unskilled and unaware of it, What is the 5th one here? I don't know. I don't know. Tools and habits for curating your judgment. All right, again. What are the 5 sections of Chapter 5, Avoid Illusions of Knowing? 1, the 2 systems of knowing, illusions and mental distortions, or memory distortions, mental models, unskilled and unaware of it, tools and habits for calibrating your judgment. Cool. Good. All right, so that's that. What did we learn about yesterday? So we began the chapter 5, Avoid Illusions of Knowing. We got an overview of what this chapter is about. It's about basically judgment, calibrating your judgment, improving your judgment so that you can basically better assess your own abilities, what you do know, what you don't know, what you're good at, what you're not good at, so that you can better train your weaknesses and improve on your weaknesses. So in general, it's about improving your judgment so that you can become more competent in general with the things you do. We got the story about these robbers who were ordering big fast food orders, and then they'd rob the guy at gunpoint for all the food and money that he had, the delivery driver that is. The problem is they kept using the same 2 phones and the same locations to pick up the food, and so eventually the cops caught on and basically almost killed the main guy. He became like debilitated, and yeah, so they thought they were getting away with it. They thought they were competent. In reality, they were completely uh, delusional about their tactics and strategies. Um, so that's one disadvantage we have of trying to gain better judgment, trying to gain better competence is when we're incompetent, we have we have the less competent we are, the more we think we are competent. It's this illusion. It's this Dunning-Kruger effect, which I'm sure we'll get into in this chapter. Um, Along with that, another disadvantage of better developing. Another disadvantage of trying to develop better judgment, more competence, is we are easily persuaded and fall into these illusions, these biases, these stories about how the world works that are not reality. Um, so to curate or to develop better judgment and competence, we need to first be able to better recognize competence in others. Second, we need to be able to become better at actually assessing what we're good at, what we're not good at, our strengths and weaknesses, what we know, what we don't know. Third, we need to adopt effective learning techniques, which have largely been covered in this book already. And fourth, we need to basically have like objective ways to measure progress. All right. I think that's basically everything. We're probably missing a few details, but those are the big ideas. So this chapter is all about perceptual illusions, memory distortions, and cognitive biases, and overcoming them, of course. Judgment and competence. It's metacognition. This is thinking about thinking. Meta comes from the Greek word for about. Okay, yeah, that's everything. So now we're getting into the two systems of knowing, which surely comes from Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. One of the books I'll definitely be reading later on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'll be back to recall in a bit. All right, guys, the two systems of knowing section. Pretty much read the whole thing, just got one paragraph left, but considering I only have 3 minutes left, I thought I would recall what I learned today, just in case I went over time. So the two systems are known. We got system 1, system 2. These are Daniel Kahneman's two systems of the brain, how the brain works, or the mind, really. And so system 1 is basically intuition. It's reflex. It's automatic. It's called the automatic system. It's things that you don't even think about, you just do. Jumping out of the way of an incoming car, or, making decisions like instantly without thinking about them consciously. That's all system 1. It has a lot of benefits, but it has a lot of downsides as well. System 2 is our like conscious analysis, our conscious decision making. It's what is it known as? The controlled system. So we get the automatic and controlled system. There's a lot of benefits to system 2, but downsides as well. It takes a long time. If a tiger is running after you, you can't just be sitting there thinking like, what should I do while it comes up and eats you? So yeah, system 1 is really what leads us to it leaves us open to a lot of biases and illusions because it's automatic. But it's also what gives experts, who have accumulated thousands of hours of deliberate practice, it's what gives them such like fast decision making, fast and accurate decision making, this reflexive intuition. Lots of experts talk about their gut feeling, their intuition. That's developed and honed through lots of practice and experience. And just your life experiences, your memories, your emotions, everything. That's what develops your intuition. But yeah, it told this story then about a pilot who, because the authors were like, it's not just, dummies who fall for biases and perceptual illusions. Pilots are completely susceptible to perceptual illusions. They're trained to be able to recognize them because they're so It's completely common and normal for everyone to experience those perceptual illusions and to trust their instruments, system 2, not their system 1, their intuition, their feeling, because they're up in space. They can get space disorientation. They can be in the clouds, and they start to trust their balance system, their vestibular system, and not their instrument in the machine. And the authors told a story about basically someone that was flying, a plane that was flying from China to America at 40,000 feet. One of the engine goes out. Instead of following protocol, going down to 30,000 feet and restarting the engine, they try to restart it up on autopilot up in 40,000 feet. Then the plane starts to slow down. That's all he's really focusing on is speed. They are like now banking because of the way they're turning, but they feel level. Then they're down like 10,000 feet in the clouds, and basically they're just flying down towards the earth, but they have no idea that they're spiraling out of control. They feel like no big deal. And only until they break out of the clouds at like 10,000 feet, because they thought that the instruments were faulty. Once they broke out of the clouds, they realized they were like plummeting towards the ground and about to kill everybody on the flight. And they pulled up extremely hard and were able to save it and land in San Francisco, even though they were going to LA. Yeah, extremely dangerous because the pilot trusted the system 1 and did not engage system 2. Kind of showing that even experts are susceptible to illusions and biases, and yeah, the downside of potential of something like a system 1 in what it can do. So even experts are susceptible to biases and illusions. All right, so that's it for today. Good call on calling it early or before I finish that last paragraph, but tomorrow we'll be able to finish up the first section of chapter 5, which is the 2 systems of knowing. One other note I just realized is that they also mentioned Blink, the book by Malcolm Gladwell, and how that book has to do with the interplay between system 1 and 2, which is interesting. I wonder if that was on purpose or not, like if he wrote the book after Thinking Fast and Slow. Yeah, that's it for today. Talk to you guys later. See ya.